So, The Power Elite by C. Wright Mills. C. Wright Mills' book, The Power Elite, published in 1956, offers a critical analysis of the structure of power in the United States. Mills argued that a small group of individuals, drawn mostly from the military, the political, economic elite, held the majority of power in society and were able to make decisions that would affect the lives of the rest of the population, often without their input or against their interests. According to Mills, the power elite is not a conspiracy, but rather a community of interests among these three sectors: military, political, economic elites. And these sectors enable its members to move fluidly between the different sectors, creating a self-sustaining network of influence and power. This elite controls the major institutions in American society, including corporations, the military, and of course federal government. Mills believed that this concentration of power was a threat to democracy, as it diminished the influence of the general populace. The book is critical of both contemporary Marxist and liberal theories of power, suggesting that both fail to accurately account for the dynamics of power and decision-making in modern societies. Now, Mills's analysis suggests that the power elite operate mostly beyond the control of ordinary citizens, which of course undermines the democratic process. The power elite has had a significant impact on sociological thought about power and has influenced both academic and public discussions about the structure of power and class in the United States. A student asked me about this not so long ago, about the voting habits in the United States, and I thought maybe I do this lecture and it can answer lots of towards my answer in that section as politics as a commodity. But these concepts and critiques against the power elite phenomena remain relevant in discussions about political and economic power structures globally. The nature of the power elite, as described by C. Wright Mills in his seminal work, revolves around the ways in which power and authority are concentrated and exercised within American society. Mills posits that power is not distributed evenly or democratically, but is instead held by a small group of individuals who occupy the top positions, the top echelons in political, military, and economic institutions. This elite group has the capacity to make decisions that have profound impacts on the course of the country and indeed, as you all know, the world. So, what's some of the key aspects of the nature of the power elite? Well, the first is a type of interconnectedness. Members of the power elite are closely interconnected, often through shared backgrounds in education, social clubs, through marriage. This interconnectedness facilitates the coordination of policies and decisions across different sectors of society. Then second there's a shared values and interests among this group. Despite coming from different sectors, economic, military, political, members of the power elite tend to share common values and interests. These shared values help to unify their actions and decisions, ensuring that they work towards common goals that maintain their collective power and control. Then third, there's mobility between sectors. So a distinctive feature of the power elite is the ease with which its members move between the high-level positions in the political, military, and corporate worlds. That type of fluidity. This particular form of fluidity, mobility, helps to reinforce the elite's cohesion and effectiveness in pursuing its objectives. Then fourth, there's a level of autonomy. The power elite operates with significant degree of autonomy from the rest of society, almost operating in a sphere of their own, right? Their decisions are often made behind closed doors with little to no input from the general public. This autonomy is critical for maintaining their positions of power and for implementing policies that may not always align with the public's interests. Then they also have influence over key institutions. Very important. The elite exercises its power through control over the major institutions of society, including the economy, the military, and the government, of course. This control enables the power elite to shape policy decisions, economic developments, and even cultural norms. Then there's a key component would be resistance to democratic oversight. Mills argued that the concentration of power in the hands of the elite poses a threat to democratic processes and principles. So the elite's control over resources and institutions allows them to resist oversight and accountability, diminishing the influence of the electorate. At this point, let me just quickly summarize what I've said. So Mills's analysis of the power elite suggests that the functioning of American democracy is deeply influenced, if not outright controlled, by the actions and decisions of a relatively small group of people at the top of the power hierarchy. This concentration of power challenges the ideal of a society governed by the democratic will of its citizens, raising questions about equality, representation, and justice in a democratic society. So, how about the interests of these power elite? So, the interests of the power elite, of course, as outlined by C. Wright Mills in his analysis, tend to revolve around maintaining and expanding their own power, wealth, and influence. These interests often intersect across the political, economic, and military domains, creating a kind of unified agenda that transcends the individual goals of each sector. Almost a form of synergism. So the specific interests of the power elite would include, top of the list would certainly be economic stability and growth. So at the core of the power elite's interests is the stability and growth of the economy in a manner that benefits them first and foremost. So this includes policies that favor large corporations, high finance, and capital accumulation. The economic elite in particular seeks to influence tax laws, regulations, and trade policies to protect and grow their wealth. That's first. Second, political influence and control. Very squarely, the power elite seeks to maintain a significant influence over most of the important political processes and the institutions involved. This would include influencing elections, for example, policy making and regulatory frameworks to ensure that the political environment is conducive to their interests. Political influence for them ensures legislation and government actions favor the economic and strategic interests of the elite. third would certainly be national and, of course, global dominance. And how do they attain that? That's where the military segment comes in. For the military segment of the power elite, interests often include maintaining national security and ensuring a dominant position in international affairs. This can involve advocating for a strong military presence globally, engaging in influencing foreign conflicts, and ensuring access to strategic resources, as in the Middle East, and now the move to the South China Sea. So these goals align with the broader elite's interest in creating a global environment favorable to their economic and political interests. And then there's also the social and economic policies. So the power elite is interested in shaping social and economic policies that ensure the continuation of their dominance. This can definitely includes education policies that perpetuate existing class structures, healthcare policies that favor private over public solutions, and no wonder they struggle with their healthcare problems, richest country in the world, and labor policies that prioritize the interests of large employers. And then another area would be control over information and public opinion. You certainly have heard of mass media. So controlling the narrative and shaping public opinion is a key interest of the power elite. No wonder you had for the longest time, the big five still have, big six in America, Viacom, Turner, and so on. So through ownership of and influence over media outlets, as well as through strategic communication and public relations efforts, the elites seek to legitimize their actions and perspectives, influencing public discourse in a way that maintains their power and mitigates opposition. And then there's very important the preservation of the status quo. So ultimately, the power elite is deeply invested in preserving the status quo where their position of privilege is maintained. And what would this include? Mostly involves resisting significant social, economic, and political changes that could undermine their power base, such as reforms that would lead to greater economic equality, enhanced democratic participation, or the redistribution of power. So, in sum, the convergence of these interests across the different sectors of the elite facilitates a unified approach to governance and control, ensuring the policies and practices enacted across the spheres of government, business, and the military serve to perpetuate the elite's dominance. The alignment of interests at the top levels of power structures is seen by Mills as a significant challenge to democratic ideals and the welfare of the broader public. So, who makes up the power elite, you may ask? For Mills, the composition of the power elites, as described in his text, consists primarily of individuals from these three domains of American society. So the first, of course, political leadership, the corporate elite, and then the military elite. So they make up, in the sense. But these groups, while distinct in their primary functions and roles within society, as argued, remember, are interconnected through shared culture, social ties, and mutual interests that facilitate a unified approach to maintaining power and influence over the nation's key institutions. So in summary, let me just look at some of them in a little bit more detail, at some of the components. So the first would definitely be political leadership. This includes the elected officials at the highest levels of government, such as the president, key members of Congress, and top political appointees. You just have to watch social media these days to see how the citizenry are trying to convince elite leadership along certain lines. So beyond the visible government, it also encompasses leaders in major political parties and influential political operatives. These individuals have the capability to shape legislation, public policy, and national priorities, making decisions that can have wide-reaching implications both domestically and internationally. Even stuff like genocide, for example. 2, corporate elite. So you have political elite, corporate elites, composed of top executives and directors of the large corporations, especially those in finance, industry, and now increasingly in technology. This group includes CEOs, CFOs, board members, and other high-ranking corporate officers who control significant economic resources and have substantial influence over the economy. Their decisions affect employment, investment, economic policy, and they have a vested interest in shaping policies that favor the business environment and naturally their own economic interests. Elon Musk, for example, who calls the Senate to talk to them about AI and legislation, can be an example. So then there's the military elite, consists of high-ranking military officers, including the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and other top commanders within the United States Armed Forces. These individuals have significant influence over defense policy, military operations, and national security strategies. Check my time. They also play a crucial role in shaping foreign policy and have direct access to defense-related resources and technology. So really, there's this interconnectivity. The interconnectivity among these groups is a critical aspect of their collective power. Members often share similar backgrounds, as mentioned earlier, including education at elite institutions, Harvard's, etc., Stanford's, or societies and personal or familial connections. I was once out with a friend, Walter Plum III. He used to come to my lectures. One day he invited me. He said there was somebody famous coming with us for lunch, and it was Mitt Romney. Can you believe it? So this connections, this shared background facilitates a common worldview and mutual understanding, reinforcing their ability to coordinate actions and policies across different spheres of influence. And remember very clearly, I mentioned this interchangeability. Mills highlighted the fluid movement of individuals across these domains, such as corporate leaders taking on political roles or military officers moving into the corporate world, further blurring the lines between these sectors and solidifying their collective power. This interchangeability ensures that the elite maintains its influence regardless of changes in the political or economic landscape. So, students, you're going to look at Mills as the power elite, and hopefully this helps towards a summary and an understanding of the text. Next time.